Several years ago, I entered a noodling contest in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, the Okie Noodling Tournament. It was perhaps the whitest thing I've ever done in my life. No offense, just facts. Now, some of you might have heard about noodling on the show Dirty Jobs. Noodling is where you go fishing primarily for flathead catfish with your bare hands. At the time, I was working for a securities brokerage when one day a stock trader named John, who was from Oklahoma, said, "Have you guys ever heard of noodling? It's where people fish for catfish with their hands." Now, none of us could actually believe this was a thing. I mean, why would anyone attempt to catch a fish with your bare hands? It sounded like something a bunch of college frat guys would come up with while drunk at a lake. So then John tells us that not only is this a thing, but they have a contest every year in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. And then he says the deadline to enter the contest was a few weeks ago, and he thought it was too late for us to enter this year, but if he can contact the organizers of the tournament and get us in, would we do it? And about 4 or 5 of us, without thinking, just said yes. We just said yes. Now, I don't know if you've ever agreed to do something that you didn't want to do only because you thought it wouldn't happen, but that's what I did. I did not think it would happen. What kind of place still accepts entrance into a contest 2 weeks after the entry deadline? Why even have a deadline if you're going to accept people 2 weeks after the fact? I guess I expected more from people who catch fish with their hands. So they accept our entry and allowed us to enter the noodling contest. The contest was about a week away at this point, and word started getting out around the company about what we were going to do. And of course, everyone was encouraging and wished us well, right? No. Absolutely not. They did not. They started sending us YouTube clips of snakes eating fish in the river. They would come by our cubicles and just shake their heads like, "Nice knowing you guys." At least that's how I took it. I took it all as disrespect, and that motivated me to prepare as much as possible. The more we looked into this whole noodling thing, the more dangerous we realized how it was, or the more dangerous we realized that it was. You see, catfish bury themselves to spawn in holes on the edge of lakes and rivers. And when you reach your hand into the hole, the catfish, in an attempt to defend the hole, reaches out and bites you to defend itself. When it bites you, you grab it through the gills and pick it up out of the water. This is the best case scenario. You see, one of the problems with this process is that humans are not the only species that love to eat catfish. So turtles and beavers and alligators all hide in these holes too, hoping for catfish to come along. So you can reach your hand into one of these holes with 5 fingers and pull out 3. Or you could reach your hand into one of these holes and the catfish grabs you and pulls you underwater and you drown. Why on earth did we say yes? A couple days before the event, I went to Bass Pro Shop down the street from where we worked, and there was this huge aquarium that had lots of fish, including a flathead catfish. This was the first time I had seen one up close. I was told this fish was about 25 to 30 pounds, and looking at him up close, all of his weight was in his head. His head was so big. But since I'm big on visualizing, I wanted to picture him on my hand as I walked out of the water with this fish. But as I looked at him, all I could think was, please God, don't let me be the first black man to get killed by a catfish. Please. So we head to Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, where everything was hole in the wall. For real, everything. But whatever, who cares about a hole in the wall when you're about to go noodling? I feel like there was only one radio station, and seemingly every other song they played was Boys from Oklahoma by Cross Canadian Ragweed. So by the time we got to the lake, we all knew the lyrics to this song. Well, them boys from Oklahoma roll their joints all wrong. They're too damn skinny. They're way too long. Well, I ain't no holy roller, so I'll just use a bong. Them boys from Oklahoma roll their joints all wrong. We heard it over and over and over again until we loved it. Now, our first stop was Lake Texoma, and here we were just walking around the lake looking for holes. And to be honest, I was not looking very hard. In fact, I believe only John, the guy from Oklahoma, was seriously looking for holes. As we were out there, someone notices a boat in the distance and says, "I think that's the game warden." Now, Lake Texoma straddles the Texas-Oklahoma border, and on one side you didn't need a fishing license to noodle, and on the other side you did. Someone realized this, and the three of us that did not have fishing licenses got back into the boats, while the two that had fishing licenses stayed out there. And as fate would have it, that was the game warden, and he came down and asked for the licenses of both of the guys who were in the water. They showed him their licenses and all was well, and he made sure to tell those of us that didn't have licenses to stay in the boat and absolutely do not fish. Now, I don't know if you believe in answered prayer, but if this isn't an answered prayer, I don't know what is. The game warden leaves, we sit back, crack open a beer, and start singing, once again, Boys from Oklahoma. And felt like we had just won the lottery because we didn't lose any fingers. The two guys that were still out in the water continued to look for catfish, but thankfully found nothing. Thankfully. I can only imagine how we would have reacted if something actually grabbed a hold of us. At the end of the day, we headed to the main event. This was where the participants drove up with their fish in a barrel and presented the fish for everyone to see. This is done after the fish have been inspected because they have to be absolutely sure that you didn't use a fishing pole, and then weighed the fish because the largest fish wins. There were so many fish that were brought up. It was quite amazing. There was even a scuba division. I think the largest catfish in the non-scuba division was about 75 pounds, and the largest catfish in the scuba division was about 125 pounds. Someone actually went underwater and came up with a 125-pound catfish in their hands. I think that's pretty amazing. So, after the presentation, they had a fish fry, and it was delicious. I ate so much catfish. I would go back again just to eat this catfish. Now, at the end of the night, when everyone was full and not sober, it was time to select a noodling queen. Yes, there was a noodling queen, and there's a good chance she looked exactly as you're picturing right now. We, of course, had to take a picture with the noodling queen, so it's probably floating out there somewhere on the internet, I'm sure. As the night was coming to an end, we're walking back to our car, and once again, we hear the song, Boys from Oklahoma, one more time. We stayed long enough to finish the song, and the night was complete.